Good morning, USA. Welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust show, where it's always unshaved, unbathed, unedited, and unscripted, fueled by coffee, cranberry trail mix, and occasionally organic cashews. I'm almost out of those. I may need to get you some more, but have some coffee and be happy. There are some good things happening. Both political money and corporations should be regulated, says Bernie or Bust, pioneers of electoral revolt, or else the United States is not a democratic order. Unregulated political money leads to a plutocratic order, and unregulated corporations lead to a greed-driven corporate state. On the Rachel Maddow show, we've got someone you've heard of saying something similar. This is what Bernie says about it.
But now what has to be done, Rachel, and I think I'm the only candidate who will tell you this, is that at the end of the day, it's not good enough to talk about Medicare for all, to talk about being aggressive on climate change. What we have got to do is understand there is a reason why in the last 30 years, the top 1% have seen an increase in their wealth of $21 trillion, while wealth has gone down for the bottom half. Why 500,000 people are sleeping out on the street. Why we are the only major country not to guarantee health care to all people, or parental leave, or sick and medical leave. There is a reason. And the reason is, and what this campaign is about, is finally saying that if you want real change, we need a political revolution. And what does that mean? It means we are going to have to take on Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry and the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex. In other words, we can talk about all the great things we want to do, but at the end of the day, to understand why we are where we are, where the middle class is shrinking, where 40 million people are living in poverty, we have to understand the political reality of America and the power structure of America. We are prepared to take those guys on, and that's why I say unapologetically, I am not afraid of those people. They want to condemn me. You know, the billionaires want to condemn me, that I'm an existential threat to the Democratic Party. So be it. We're going to take them on.
In terms of how that translates practically, I'm hearing echoes of your first answer in the debate in Miami, when the question was something along the lines of what do you want to do first? And you talked about this need for a political revolution and the
Yes.
need to sort of take on multi-front battles,
Yes.
all at the same time. If you were elected president in 2020, odds are, I don't know, let's guess, 50-50 that Senator Mitch McConnell would still be the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, and they'd still hold the majority there. You know, for being in the Senate, what that means.
We'll tackle Mitch a different day. But Bernie said, I'm the only candidate who's going to say this about taking on Wall Street. Even though Elizabeth wags her finger at those guys, she's going to take their money. They have already said, they've announced that she is becoming acceptable. Bernie is the one, he's the only one who's going to take them on. Tulsi probably also would. I'm watching her carefully. I listen especially to what Tim Black says about her. And I'm very hopeful that she also could take them on like that. But everyone else seems to be so cozy with that money. They don't seem to have the political fortitude to just say no. If you know me personally, a lot of my problems over the last 6 or 7 years, almost all of them are directly traceable to this idea that money is speech, that corporations and the markets are the reason and the end all for political action. And I'm a university professor. I lost my position at a previous university because of the idea that higher education should be a business instead of an educational endeavor. And for that reason, music, I'm a music professor, music hasn't been very valued not only in public schools, I've had trouble with public schools not valuing music and the other arts enough, but the humanities and foreign languages and philosophy and other areas like that in higher education are under attack. Whole programs are being eliminated. And the reason is because we're thinking of higher ed as a business and we're running it with a business model. And so when I say the reason I'm having trouble, the reason my life isn't able to have the traction and the impact that I want it to, is because of the bean counters who have been running higher education. So I hear somebody like Bernie Sanders say, we need to tackle Wall Street. We need to come right at those guys, big oil, big industrial, military, big pharma, big prison, the whole thing. It's all the same problem. It's the wrong people are pulling the levers and the switches of our economy and of our whole culture. And so when Bernie says, I'm going to take those guys on, and he says, I think I'm the only candidate that you'll hear say this, he's right. And that's why I get excited when he speaks about that. It's personal with me. It's very personal. I feel like my own life will be much better if we get out of the bean counter mode, if we can disenfranchise, disempower the bean counters. We need human beings calling the shots. It's not easy. About socialism, people talk about it. There was an interesting interview with Tulsi Gabbard. It was on the Tim Black show, and I'm going to get to that in a future episode. But the commentator came right at her with the idea that, well, aren't you a socialist? And it was a gotcha question. And the idea was that socialism is terrible. And Tulsi wouldn't even talk about it. She said, these labels are killing us. We don't even know what they mean. They mean different things to different people. What we should be talking about is doing what's best for the American people. Bernie even trumps that. He says we need to do what's best for all the people. And that, if you go farther on the Rachel Maddow clip, you'll hear thrilling ideas about how we can work together not to keep serving the plutocrats. And it's such a message of hope. I'll leave you with that idea. I want there to be a difference in how the world is run and in who's running that world. It's not going to be easy. I will make one plea for this website that I run. It's called Revolt Against Plutocracy Rap Sheet. I really could use some help on this page. If you get to this page, you'll see lots of ways to bring people on board. We're going to need, as Bernie keeps saying, we're going to need millions of people to fight this fight. A lot of comfortable Democrats don't understand how important it is, how desperate people are to fix this broken system. I keep hearing the sneering reactions from the snarling Democrats. Oh yeah, we're not going to have blood in the streets. We're not going to have pitchforks. That's just an allegory, right? But in other places in the world and in this place in the world, we've got people desperate enough to pick up their pitchforks. When the oppressed have been held down too long, voting stops meaning what it meant when there was order. Those most comfortable with the status quo may be assuming too much when they believe that a rigged election system will continue to be able to hold people within the confines of a rigged economic system. It's not going to be pretty, and I don't understand why people can just click their tongues and assume that the status quo is going to be maintainable. We're reaching a tipping point, and so Bernie's political revolution is a much better scenario than this kind of revolution right here. So if you can help me, we can get the word out. We can stave off this sort of revolution and bring about a more peaceful one. This page again, Revolt Against Plutocracy Rap Sheet, Facebook group. If you could get on there with me, I think we could start to make people more aware that we need to change things. The status quo is just not going to cut it.